Frankism. Frankism was an 18th century religious movement founded by Jacob Frank that blended Jewish mysticism, radical antinomianism, and elements of Christianity, making it one of the most controversial sects in Jewish history. Origins. Founder. Jacob Frank, 1726 to 1791. Born in Podolia, today's Ukraine. Roots. Emerged from Sabbateanism, a messianic movement inspired by Sabbatai Zevi, 1626 to 1676, who claimed to be the Jewish Messiah. Context. Frankism arose in the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth during a time of social upheaval and widespread messianic expectations among Jews. Core beliefs. Antinomianism. Frank taught that followers must transgress traditional Jewish laws and moral boundaries to achieve spiritual redemption. This included rejecting the authority of the Talmud. Messianic claims. Frank presented himself as the successor or reincarnation of Sabbatai Zevi, positioning himself as a new messianic figure. Mystical syncretism. Combined Jewish Kabbalah with Catholic Marian mysticism and even incorporated aspects of Islam. Rituals. Followers engaged in radical practices, including sexual rites and symbolic orgies, which shocked mainstream Jewish communities. Historical development. Landskrown incident. 1756 Frankists were accused of heretical rituals involving a half-naked woman, symbolizing the Shekinah, divine presence. The scandal brought them to wider attention. Conversion to Catholicism. By the 1760s, Frank encouraged mass conversion of his followers to Catholicism, though they retained secret Frankist beliefs. Frank's imprisonment. He was jailed in Poland for heresy but later released and continued to lead his sect until his death in 1791. Influence and legacy. At its height, Frankism may have had up to 50,000 followers across Central and Eastern Europe. It represented a radical break from rabbinic Judaism, challenging traditional authority and norms. Some Frankists integrated into Christian society, while others maintained hidden sectarian identities. Historians view Frankism as both a millenarian movement and a social rebellion, reflecting the disillusionment of Jews in 18th century Eastern Europe. Why it was controversial. Religious transgression. Frank's call to deliberately break Jewish law was seen as blasphemous. Sexual rituals. Reports of orgies and incest made the sect infamous. Dual identity. Their conversion to Catholicism while secretly holding Frankist beliefs created suspicion and hostility from both Jews and Christians. In summary, Frankism was a radical, messianic sect led by Jacob Frank that rejected Jewish law, embraced transgression as a path to salvation, and blended Jewish mysticism with Christian elements. It was both a spiritual rebellion and a social phenomenon, leaving a lasting mark on Jewish and European religious history. Sabbatai Zevi was forced by an Ottoman sultan to convert to Islam under threat of execution. Jacob Frank did later convert to Islam, but his conversion was voluntary and part of his broader messianic strategy, not a direct ultimatum from a sultan. Sabbatai Zevi, 1626 to 1676, claimed to be the Jewish Messiah. In 1666, Sultan Mehmed IV of the Ottoman Empire gave him the choice: convert to Islam or be executed. Zevi chose conversion, which shocked his followers. Many later became the Donma, crypto-Jews who outwardly practiced Islam but secretly retained Sabbatean beliefs. Jacob Frank, 1726 to 1791. A century later, Frank claimed to be Zevi's spiritual successor. He did convert to Islam during his travels in the Ottoman Empire, but not under threat of death. His conversion was part of his radical religious program, which also included later mass conversion of his followers to Catholicism. Frank's movement emphasized purification through transgression and deliberately broke Jewish law as a path to redemption. Why the confusion? Both Zevi and Frank were messianic figures tied to Sabbateanism. Zevi's forced conversion is a famous episode in Jewish history. Frank's voluntary conversion to Islam and later Catholicism sometimes gets conflated with Zevi's dramatic confrontation with the Sultan. As Frankism's main objective was transgression, father-daughter incest was practiced by his followers. So the theory that these women were telling the truth to Freud, but he changed the story in order to protect his clients. Ignaz Semmelweis, 1818 to 1865, was a Hungarian physician known as the savior of mothers for discovering that hand-washing dramatically reduced maternal deaths from childbed fever. Early life and education. Born July 1, 1818, in Buda, now Budapest, Hungary, then part of the Austrian Empire. Education. Studied law initially, but switched to medicine at the University of Vienna, earning his MD in 1844. Specialization. Focused on obstetrics and became assistant at the Vienna General Hospital's maternity clinic. Discovery of hand-washing. In the mid-19th century, puerperal fever, childbed fever, was a leading cause of death among women after childbirth. Semmelweis noticed that mortality rates were much higher in wards staffed by medical students who also performed autopsies, compared to wards run by midwives. In 1847, he hypothesized that cadaverous particles carried on doctors' hands were infecting mothers. He introduced hand disinfection with chlorinated lime solution, which reduced mortality rates from around 10 to 18% to 1 to 2%. Opposition and struggles. Despite clear evidence, Semmelweis faced strong resistance from the medical establishment. Many doctors rejected the idea that they themselves were the source of infection. His findings challenged entrenched beliefs about disease, which at the time were explained by miasma, bad air, rather than germs. He published his major work, The Etiology, Concept, and Prophylaxis of Childbed Fever in 1861, but it was poorly received. Decline and death. In July 1865, his colleagues committed him to a mental asylum in Vienna, reportedly because of his increasingly erratic behavior and confrontational writings against the medical establishment. Once inside, he was beaten by guards after a failed escape attempt. He suffered a severe injury to his hand, which became infected. He died on August 13, 1865, at age 47, most likely from sepsis, blood poisoning, caused by that untreated wound. Legacy. Semmelweis's work anticipated germ theory, later confirmed by Louis Pasteur and Joseph Lister. Today, he is celebrated as a pioneer of antiseptic procedures and a hero in medical history. His insistence on hand hygiene remains a cornerstone of modern medicine and public health. In summary, Semmelweis revolutionized obstetrics by proving that hand-washing could save lives, but his contemporaries largely ignored him. His legacy lives on as a reminder of the importance of evidence-based medicine and the fight against medical resistance to change. Probably Sigmund Freud was right and changed his story with good reason. If he accused his clients of child sexual abuse, he not only would lose his clients, but his life as well.
Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.